You are listening to Leaders and Legends, a podcast produced by Veteran Strategies and featuring conversations with fascinating and impactful men and women who have shaped our world, our communities, and our history. My name is Robert Vane, Principal of Veteran Strategies, and your host for our discussion. We are joined on the Leaders and Legends podcast today by two-time Indianapolis 500 champion, Unser Jr. Al, thank you so much for your time. It's very kind.
Thanks for having us.
Well, we're sitting here at the greatest sporting venue in the world, one that I know has to mean so much to you just as soon as you walk through the doors. We want to chat all about your career and especially here at Indy, but I want to ask you first, do you remember the first time you came to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and what it was like? That feeling.
Of course I do. I was 11 years old, 1973. It was that was my first race, and it wasn't a very good year for the 573 because there was a lot of rained out days, and a lot of crashes and so on. People getting hurt that year, but yeah, it was. It was just when we pulled down 16th Street there, and I saw the grandstands on the outside for the first time. They were just so big, just so huge, and then coming in with Dad and all that, it was just it was super special.
Had you visited other tracks with him, so you had a frame of reference? Like, this track looks like this, but compared to...
Oh, yeah. We had... my sisters and I used to travel with Dad during the summers of all the IndyCar season, and so we had been to several different racetracks prior to coming to Indy, and so... Yeah.
By 1973, your father had won twice, 70 and 71. Did you understand, did you know my daddy's famous, but he's especially famous here?
Well, being that young, I knew Dad was famous, okay? And that sort of thing. Super famous or anything like no, he was Dad to us, and so we still got in trouble and all that kind of stuff. So It was. I guess it was later on that summer that a little girl came up and asked Dad for his autograph, and my sisters and I kind of giggled. Why would you want Dad's? We kind of giggled, and when the little girl walked away, Dad scolded us for doing that. He goes, "Don't you ever?"
Really?
Oh yeah. He got upset with us, and so
because you giggled? Because you said, "What do you?"
Yeah. Because we just, he's Dad. He's our dad. He's not, anything special, but he was. So
when was he ever in your presence when someone asked you for your autograph, and he said, "Why the hell would you want my son's autograph?"
No. That was when we were kids. We didn't understand, and so no. By the time I grew up and so on, no, Dad and I, we understood that plain and simple, without the race fan, we wouldn't have a job, and that's pretty much why he did to us what us kids, and so it's a very special thing to have a fan come up and ask you for your autograph. It's special.
Did you get the sense that fans were closer to the drivers then than when you were at your peak and racing, whether there was more familiarity or was there less?
No, it was the same. I think that race fans love racing, and the drivers' names, they change, and the technology of the automobiles change, but the love for the sport never does change, and so no, the fan is extremely special in our industry.
That's a great point, because it's not like basketball or hockey where a team can come to a city 3 or 4 times a year, or football where the Jets are going to play in New England every year. It's just a matter when. These fans have to travel in a lot of cases. It's a significant expense and dedication of their time. Do you think that's one of the reasons it makes them so special to the drivers and to the industry?
Maybe. The Indy 500 only runs once a year, and so it's extremely special. The 500 is kind of its own entity, kind of thing. But in IndyCar racing, I mean, we travel all over the country, and yeah, there's only one Long Beach Grand Prix a year. There's only one Phoenix oval a year, and that sort of thing. And so, it's something that the fan has to dedicate themselves to it, and so on.
Is there a particular, without naming names or whatever, but group of fans you'd be like, didn't I just see you in Indy, and now it's 2 months later and we're in Michigan or Pocono or Phoenix?
There's
and
a following.
I see you.
There's a following. Yeah. There's a following, which is great. It's good to see that there are dedicated fans that will travel and go to all the races.
When you were, I think you said 11, and you came here the first time, had you already resolved or wished, I want to do what my dad does? Oh yeah.
It when my dad won the 500 for the first time in 1970. At that time, it was shown. My sisters and I were in Albuquerque, and it was closed circuit TV. So we went to the Civic Auditorium in Albuquerque.
Really?
And it was closed circuit, and it was big screen, and we were sitting up front, and the Johnny Lightning car, I fell in love with it, and
it blue?
It blue with yellow lightnings, and I was 8 years old. And I had a Johnny Lightning set at home, and so that's when I fell in love with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Indy 500, and that's when the dream started.
You mentioned your sisters. How were they involved? How were they a part of the racing enthusiasm? In their blood or just as fans?
my older sister, Mary Linda, she wasn't really into the racing. She knew what Dad did and that sort of thing. My middle sister, Debbie, she was more of a tomboy. And so right at that time, I started racing go-karts there in Albuquerque at home. And within a couple years later, my sister Debbie, she wanted to race the go-kart, and so Dad got her one, and so we were going up there together racing. So
Did you get nervous, scared? I mean, you either saw the crashes or read about the crashes, and you thought, man, that could be my dad.
Never thought about Dad.
Or my uncle,
in that way, or Uncle Bobby. When I was that young, I liked to go to the races to see the crashes. Okay,
makes perfect sense.
Not knowing anybody's going to get hurt or anything like that, but I want to see them crash.
People of our age, we didn't want to see Evel Knievel make the jump.
Right,
we wanted to see him hit
crash.
That bus at
That's
the
right.
end.
That's right. So at that age, I went to see the crashes, but then it wasn't until I started driving real race cars professionally that the danger factor even entered into my head. Even in the go-kart, you're not going to get hurt. I never even thought about that. So,
did your dad or your uncle? And I want to ask you about your uncle who just passed just a few months ago. Did they talk to you about that aspect of it? Like, it's a lot of fun and it's exhilarating, and you can be successful and make some money and be popular, but there's always this dark kind of angel on your shoulder. You just never know.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't discussed other than, it's there, okay? And you put your helmet on, you put your fire suit on, you do what you can to make it as safe as possible. And then the most important thing is when you go out there and drive, that you use your head. You think. You be smart about it. Don't be doing anything stupid like driving over your head and driving a car that's real loose or something like that. If the car's not handling right, bring it in the pits and make changes to it so that it does handle right. And so you do that, then you'll get quicker and quicker and quicker, and then you'll have success by making your car handle good. So,
can the speed be intoxicating in the sense that you're always wanting to go faster? So what do I need to do? You just mentioned about taking it back to the pits, but is the quest for speed something that you have to be mindful of from a safety standpoint?
Well, yes, you do. Okay. When I first started, my rookie year at Indianapolis was 1983. The cars were built out of aluminum honeycomb. If you had any kind of frontal impact with the car on the walls at Indy, your legs are going to be crushed, at the very minimum, if you do survive. So, as the years went on, the technology of safety started getting better and better and better. And so kind of how I saw it was that in the early 80s, the late 70s and early 80s, there was really an imbalance in the safety technology and the speed technology. Okay, so the cars were going faster than the safety technology of it. And so when I came in as a rookie, we were running over 200 miles an hour here at Indy, and the cars were aluminum honeycomb. I mean, they were a tin can at best. Okay, and so
for speed purposes, I'm guessing, or aerodynamic purposes.
Yeah, just flat speed purposes, and so you really concentrated. You spent a lot of time staying in control of your car. Okay, just that simple. As the technology increased, there was a balancing that did happen with the safety technology. The cars started being made out of carbon fiber. They started to have breakaway lines that were installed if the engine separates from the fuel tank. There's no fuel going anywhere. Fuel bladders that are puncture proof. All these sort of things that came into it that truly balanced out the safety technology. Like today, I really feel the safety technology is in balance with the speed technology. So they're really quite safe. But there is, the ugly side of our business, how I say it, and you never know what's going to happen. But at least today, they're a lot safer than they were, especially in the mid '70s when it was really.
You mentioned fire, and what was it? Was it 66, 68, where there was the crash at the very beginning, and Foyt climbs over the
66. Yeah, there's 66, 67. I mean, there was some real bad fires back in the day. I mean,
the Sachs McDonald crash in '64 is particularly bad. Yeah,
and then the first Unser, my Uncle Jerry was the first Unser here at Indianapolis, and that was in 1958. He crashed on the opening lap. Okay, hit the wall in turn 3 and went over the wall and out. But he survived.
Right.
Okay, he didn't get injured, but he came back in '59, and during practice, he rolled the car down the front straightaway, got severely burned really bad, and then within 3 months, he died of pneumonia from the burns. Yeah. And so that's when they wore T-shirts, leather helmets, I mean, so they just didn't know. Okay, I mean, would I have driven race cars at that time? Yes, the answer is yes. Yeah. Would I have been in T-shirt? Yeah. I mean, that's just what you did back then, and so, but it's come a long way.
You mentioned your Uncle Jerry, so let me ask you about your Uncle Bobby, a 3-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, passed away earlier in 2021. What was your relationship like with him, and how did you understand and revel in the uniqueness of having a father and an uncle who were among the greatest racers of all time?
Well, quite simply put, I'm super blessed to be born where I was born, with Dad and Uncle Bobby. And then I was blessed with the love of racing, and went ahead and followed in my dad's footsteps and my uncle's footsteps. And Uncle Bobby was a very outspoken person. Okay, he had
great interviews, man.
Very, very opinionated and that sort of thing. And that didn't stop on the interview. That carried at home when you go snowmobiling or hunting or anything like that. Uncle Bobby was definitely the leader of the family and that kind of thing. And so, with Uncle Bobby, I was truly blessed with the knowledge that he had and the way that he attacked racing, and then having my father and the way that he attacked racing. Basically, Uncle Bobby, his fundamental ideas was, if I'm going to fall out of the race, I want to be leading it. Okay, I want to lead the first lap. I want to lead every lap. Back in that day, mechanical failures were huge with the Indy cars. Okay, so they broke down more often than they finished. Okay, where my dad's was exactly the opposite. My dad wanted to lead the last lap. Okay, and so if it was easy to lead, he'd lead, but he wouldn't put it all out there during qualifying or the first half of the race. It was the second. So what I tried to do was take the best of both and try to apply it to my racing, and that's pretty much what I did. I wasn't a really successful qualifier. I think I've only got 8 poles in my whole career. Okay, but I wanted to sit on the first 3 rows. If I sat on the first 3 rows of any race, I had a shot at winning it. And so that's kind of how I looked at it during practice. I was always thinking about not just sheer speed, but how do I make my car comfortable to have the best average speed over a long distance, over the entire race. Indy, Pocono, and Michigan were the 500-mile races. All the rest of them were 200-mile races, and so and there were road courses in there and that sort of thing. And so I would just, all during practice, it was just about making the car comfortable and being able to adapt to different weather conditions and that sort of thing. What in order to win the race, that's what I was there to do. Not be the fastest guy, but win the race.
Did you witness a sibling rivalry? My brother still remembers, when he beat me in Monopoly during the Carter administration.
Yeah.
Right. So I can only imagine if there was, or was there, I should say, a bit of trash talk between Uncle Bobby and your dad, where Bobby wins in 68. Then 3 years later, your dad's got 2. And so did they go back and forth a little bit?
Absolutely. They were super competitive. Super competitive. I mean, the snowmobile races that we used to have during the wintertime were outrageous. The money that was spent and the hours of working on the machines. And I grew up with that, watching my dad and Uncle Bobby go at it like that. Mm-hmm. And so when I came along, it really became racing against Dad. So I had a race with my dad almost every year in the snowmobiles. Okay, and we ended up naming it the Runway Classic. I made a trophy for it. And we had all kinds of rules that we would break all the time. I mean, there was a time there that I put a nitrous bottle in the seat of my snowmobile so that it was hidden. And so, in order,
there was no chief steward.
No, there was no chief steward. So, but no, they were. Uncle Bobby and Dad were competitive at everything they did. So yeah, that rivalry was right there in the Unser family. Yeah.
You came up through the midgets and sprint cars, almost a traditional track, much like previous generations. You read about whether it's Vukovic or Foyt or your uncle, your dad, and they kind of like that you had to pay your dues in this style car, then you paid your dues in the dirt tracks and that sort of thing. Do you think that helped you? Did you enjoy that sort of like, yeah, I'm not going to say AA or AAA because I don't want to denigrate it, but clearly it's different than racing in a super speedway. Was that helpful to you? Did you have fun?
I love the sprint car. I went from the go-kart. I started racing when I was 9 till I was 16, and then I was old enough to get into a sprint car at 16, so I drove a sprint car for 3 years, 16, 17, 18, and then I got in a Super V, which is today's Indy Lights, let's say. And then 1982, I did a Can-Am season. And then in 1983, I got to Indy cars. And so the ladder really presented itself that way to me. And you know, with Dad's blessing and all that, I mean, he really helped. And the fortunate thing that I was able to do was when I made the jump from go-kart to sprint car, I was able to adapt to it, and the sprint car became something that I enjoyed driving, and I had success. And then when I went from the sprint car to the Super V, I enjoyed that step, going from the dirt ovals to road courses and asphalt ovals, you know. And then the Can-Am car was a horsepower jump also from the Super V, and that was strictly road courses, which at that time, the majority of the IndyCar races were on road courses. Okay, so at each level, each jump, I was able to absorb it and accept it and have success doing it. And I think that's why I was able to do it so quickly, you know, as far as the ladder. But I remember the sprint car at 16, 17, and 18. I took it so serious, you know, it was just serious because they are serious race cars, okay? And then I got to Indianapolis and I ran my first laps at Indy, and they're 200 miles an hour going down the straightaways, and I went, okay, this is serious. This is serious. I had a lot of fun driving the sprint car, but this is serious stuff.
83 was your first race here?
Yeah.
What made you believe you were ready for that race?
Just the sheer fact that we were able to, again, go from the Super V to the Can-Am car. And then in 1982, at the end of the season, I ran my first IndyCar race at Riverside, California, with the Forsyth race team. And I qualified 10th and ended up finishing 5th. You know, it was something that I could do. And I remember my dad actually. I was sitting right next to my race car on the pit wall, and I'm looking at the Indy car. I've never driven it, you know, and I'm just kind of like. And Dad came up and sat next to me, and he could tell I was a little nervous, you know, and he goes, "It's just a race car. It's all it is. It's just a race car, so go out and drive it as such. It's nothing different, nothing special," is what he was saying. And you know, and those words, I think he saw me breathe because that's was the calming effect that it had on me, and I just settled right down and went out and did my thing.
I've never met your father. I've read a lot about him. He seems to be a fellow who would say you pay your dues and you take your time and you earn your own living.
That's right.
Did you get the sense coming up that people were like, "Hey, that's Al Unser's kid," or "That's Al Unser's kid"?
There was again, I was blessed to be born where I was born. And so things did come to me a little bit quicker than others, but only because Dad and Uncle Bobby were so successful in the industry. And then when I went out and drove, I would win. I was fast. It was real natural to me. And so with that, then I was able to grab the attentions of the car owners and sponsors by my results that I went out and did. And so I think that's how it ramped up so quick. But again, I really think that that Michael Andretti and myself really were very fortunate and blessed to be born, and then also to have the love for racing. It has to come within. My son, who Little Al, he's A3, okay, to the racing fraternity, he's A3, and we started him racing go-karts and stuff, and started doing that, but he felt the pressure. It kind of got to him, and so he, was affected by that outside noise or something, and I never heard it. I loved racing so much that's all I wanted to do. It's all I thought about, all that kind of stuff, and with Little Al, he lacked that last 10% of desire or love or whatever you want to call it, that willing to just do anything it takes to win. And so it showed once he got into the Indy lights and the levels that he was clicking off. It ended up showing, and so yeah.
You're listening to the Leaders and Legends podcast. We are with our guest, two-time Indianapolis 500 champion, Al Unser Jr. You mentioned Michael Andretti a few seconds ago. Did you have a special friendship with him and perhaps rivalry? And let me throw another name into the mix, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Do you know him? And it would seem that the three of you would have a lot in common in more ways than one.
We do have a lot in common in the aspect that our dads were very successful and great race car drivers. Okay. Other than that, no, that's about all that we have in common. With Dale Jr., Dale Jr.'s in NASCAR. His family spent their time there, so it's a whole different racing fraternity. It's still a fraternity, but it's separated. So we didn't race each other very much at all. I raced with Dale Jr. a couple times in IROC, and that was about it. With Michael, we were a bit closer because my dad and Mario were teammates in the early 70s, and so there was some snowmobile trips during the wintertime.
I want to see YouTube these snowmobile races.
We did. We actually raced when we were kids. I mean, like 8, 9 years old, and even then, Michael outran me. Even then, he outran me.
Did you root for him in a sense? I mean, you won twice, 92 and 94. And Michael famously never won as a driver. But do you find yourself like going, whether it's Michael Andretti or someone else, throw someone else's name out there, this person is such a good guy. He's such a good race car driver. If I don't win, I want X to win.
Yeah, I mean, with Michael was my direct contemporary, okay? I mean, we raced against each other all the time in our careers. We had great races with each other. We respected each other out on the racetrack, and that produced great races between us. And so, really the only reason why Michael didn't win the Indy 500 as a driver is because of the IndyCar split. The split that happened in 96 there for 5 years, that's the only reason why he didn't win a race. My first victory in 92, Michael was gone. He had everybody covered.
That's right.
It was his race, without a doubt. And then his car broke with 12 to go, and so, but he was doing everything perfect. And so, I enjoyed racing him. We were friends to the point of I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He lived in Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Okay, so when we weren't at the racetrack, we were two different lives totally, and so.
Are the Unsers the most famous people out of Albuquerque, New Mexico? Who else is in that?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think who else who came out of Albuquerque and done good.
I don't know. Quite honestly, I don't know.
Was it fun to be in Albuquerque and just be one of the?
Yeah, folks? I mean, we were just one of the members of the community out there, and it was I loved Albuquerque. I still love Albuquerque today. Yeah.
You mentioned your first race was 1983. I believe that's the year that Tom Sneva won his only race. Mm-hmm. He barely won it, perhaps.
No, he won it outright.
But
he won it outright.
You played a role in that at the end, which got to be kind of famous. Please take us. 1982, which is, I mentioned to you before we started recording, that was my first race. Our family tickets, we were right there when John Cock shut down Mears on his pass.
I was here that day. I was
Beautiful
watching it
race.
from the pits. Yeah.
But 83 was also a famous race, your first one, but Tom Sneva and Al Unser Sr. Had a bit of a battle. You played a role in that. Talk about that and what it was like for a son to be trying to help as best you can, if that's the word you want to use. His father win the race.
Yeah, well, if you back it up a little bit, Dad and I were the first father-son to race against each other in the history of the 500. So we were the first father-son. And then as the race went on, Dad had a great car that day, and so him and Sneva were running up front and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know what I was doing, so I had a fast car, but I also had a right rear go flat on me out on the track and extra pit stops and stuff. So I was a few laps down near the end of the race, and we were under yellow. Dad was leading, Tom Sneva was second in line, and then I was third in line, but I was a few laps down, so I was like, I believe in 10th place or something, And so under that yellow, I went, if I could get between them and give Dad a few laps that he could stretch out a lead that he could win if I could get between them. And
that would have been his fourth.
And it would have been his third. It would have been his third.
He won in 70 and 71. Did he win in 78?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. It would have been his fourth.
Because his fourth came in 87.
Yep. So it would have been his fourth. And so I went, okay, so I was ready for the restart. And I was so ready for the restart that when the leaders took off, when Dad decided to take off, I took off, and I was in a lower gear or something, and I passed them both before we got into turn 4. So I came off at turn 4, the yellow lights are out, and I'm leading both Dad and I didn't want to be leading Dad. I wanted to be behind him and cause Sneva some grief, for a few laps, and so the green comes out. Dad, I think he passes me on the front straightaway because I kind of backed off a little bit to get between them. And so I let Dad go, and then I got between them. And then the unthinkable happened that I didn't even think about, and that was Dad was fast all day long, and all of a sudden, he wasn't fast. He didn't go anywhere. And so he was holding all of us up because he couldn't get through the corner as well as he had been he had a bad set of tires or something. And so he didn't go. And so I didn't want to draft up on Dad and pass him, and cause him everything. But I wanted to help him. And so at that point I said, okay, I cannot draft him and just go through the corner with him. And then if I get out from behind him, then I could run wide open down the straightaways and so on. And so that's what I did. It looked, honest to God, it looked like I was blocking for my dad. But
why wouldn't you?
Well, because that's not the sportsman thing to do. I didn't want to block Sneva. I wanted to cause him grief. I wanted to take away his air in the corners, and then I wanted to give him as much air as he possibly could on the straightaway. So what that entailed, if I drafted Dad and just backed off the gas, then that would give Tom 2 cars to draft off of instead of just one. So by getting out of line from my dad, Tom would only have me to draft off of. Mm-hmm. And so if he would have made a move to the inside or something, I would have let him go, but he had to earn the pass, in other words. And I think it bothered him that he's got both father, son driving down the straightaways, kind of halfway blocking the track. He's in a traffic jam. And so I think he did get a little bit frustrated eventually, because we came off turn 4 one time, and he pushed the front end so bad because he was really trying to get a run on me to get on the inside of me. And he almost hit the wall coming off of the corner. He almost hit the wall, and I saw it in my mirror, and I went, oh, darn. That was close, Too bad he held it together, I mean, I don't want any injuries or nothing,
Sure.
but if he could just tap it and just bend his suspension a little bit, that would have been great. And
what was it like talking to your dad or to Sneva after the race?
Well, the way it turned out is Dad just didn't go anywhere, and Tom was able to finally get a run on me and get on the inside of me. And once he went that way, then I got out of there. He had to earn it. He earned it. So now, and within a lap, he passed Dad like that, and then as the laps, I end up passing Dad. So I that's how my dad just had a bad set of tires. His car was off, and at the end of the race there, he was slow, and so I ended up passing him, and so it all worked out the way that it was supposed to work out, I guess, but we definitely introduced the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to me.
And when you saw him after the race, I mean, disappointed that you didn't win. You're disappointed. You're disappointed that he doesn't win. But was there a sense of like, well, we were both still here. We're both climbing out of our own car, having you finished the race. And
yeah, it was a great experience for me. Really what happened at the end of the race, Tom Vimford, the chief steward, he calls me into his office. I tell Dad, oh, Tom's called me in. What? Why would he do that? I don't know. He goes, well, I'm going to go with you. And so we go. Okay. Dad comes with me. Why are you asking my son to come in here? And he goes, I'm going to penalize him for jumping the start.
And you were 21 years old at the end of the time?
Yeah, I was 21, and I'm going to penalize him for jumping the start. And Dad goes, I missed a gear. It wasn't his fault. I missed a gear. You can't penalize him. So Dad was getting all in Tom Binford's face about, you can't penalize my son, kind of thing. But he ended up penalizing me, but it did not change my finishing position. He ended up penalizing me, but it did not. I still finished 10th, even after the penalty.
What's it like to go from Indianapolis and then run other races? I'm not going to assume that there's a letdown, but there just has to be kind of a different, like Indianapolis is so gigantic. How do you recalibrate your mind for not lesser races, but races where you don't necessarily have 400,000 people there and $1 million prize?
Honest to God, to the driver, okay. Indy, we used to practice for 2 full weeks, and then we had that week of going dark. So it was actually a 3-week ordeal, okay? And so our next event was Milwaukee, the very next weekend. And so we would go up to Milwaukee, we would practice on Friday, qualify on Saturday, and race on Sunday. And so the drivers actually welcomed the smallness of the event, because you go, you practice, you qualify, you race, and then you go home. You're not here for 3 weeks and practicing every day, and sponsors pulling you here and sponsors pulling you there, and your engineer and worrying about the speed and all that. Because when it comes down to it, the Indy 500 is just another race, okay? But because it means so much, that does make it its own entity. Okay, but the track itself, and the race itself is just a race. And so that's what you have to do. You have to execute get your pit stops, call the yellow flags, your strategies, all that stuff is the same thing that we would do at Milwaukee the very next weekend. So,
when you started a season, was your goal, or maybe even growing up when you're younger and trying to get into the business, was winning the Indianapolis 500 your goal, or being the season-end champion your goal? Like, if you could choose one in a year, if you had to choose one, which one would you choose?
The Indy 500, without a doubt. But you need to win races elsewhere to be a better driver at the Indy 500. And so, as my childhood dream, the first was to qualify for the Indy 500. Mm-hmm. The second one was to race in the Indy 500. And then the third was to win the Indy 500. And so, we were able to do two of those in 1983, and then it took me 10 years to win it. I came close in 89.
That's my next race I'm going to ask you about. 1989, you crashed in turn 3 while battling Emerson Fittipaldi on the 199th lap.
Yep.
And then you did something that is more memorable, perhaps, than Mo winning the race. Please talk about the end of the race and then your gesture of sportsmanship after you crashed.
Well, in all honesty, in all the years that I ran the 500, 89 was my best drive. It was, we as a team and me as a driver were better prepared for that race than I was in any of the other races, even my victories. I made very few mistakes. We had a fast race car. We didn't show it until the end, which again, it leads to, the last lap is the one you want to lead.
Right.
And so it all fell into place except for a final yellow that happened that allowed Emerson to come in and get a splash and go and pull out in front of me. And I went, okay, now I got to race this guy, because prior to that, had that yellow not come, we would have won it easily because we were saving fuel and he had to make a pit stop and I was like 20 seconds behind him and just out of distance of threatening distance, so they didn't even know we were there basically, and we would have won it going away, but that yellow came out, so now I got to race him. We get through some traffic and I ran him down and passed him and started pulling away from him, and so then we came up on lap traffic and going down the backstretch. He gets up beside me. We go into turn 3. We touch. I go into the wall, and so I get out of the car. It's under yellow now, and that when he came off of 4 after we touched, when he came off of 4, he gets the white flag. So this race is finishing under yellow no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so I get out of the car and I take my helmet off and I head out to the edge of the track. And I have one of the safety crew guys stand in front of me and block me and ask me, where are you going? I go, I'm going out there. He goes, what, you want to flip him off? I went, yeah.
That's what NASCAR would have done.
Are you kidding? Yeah. So he steps aside and he goes, go right ahead.
That's such an Indy story.
So I walk out there and there was a moment of clarity, a moment of silence among all these screaming people, and
wanted to see a battle to the finish.
And it just, Emerson's coming around to get the checkered. I mean, it's over. This thing's over, and I just thought about all the years that I had been racing and the sportsmanship, and I had actually thought about. There was a kid when Dad and I were go-kart racing when I was super young, and there was a kid out there that he spun off the track or something. He gets out of his go-kart, takes off his helmet, and slams the helmet and Dad looked at me and he goes, "If I ever see you do that, you will not race." Okay. And I went, oh, I don't know how this popped into my head, but it did. Knowing Emerson the way that I knew Emerson, Emerson is the last guy that would want to hurt anyone. I mean, Emerson pulled Nicky Lauda out of the F1 car when it was on fire and saved his life, risked his life to save. And that's what Emerson does. And so he's coming around to get the checkered, his first Indy 500. It would have been my first, but it's his. And I just went, I'm just going to congratulate him. So I clapped hands and gave thumbs up and congratulated him on that. And then I got in the ambulance and started crying. Just fell apart. just fell apart.
Oh, God love you.
Emotionally,
I believe it.
I just fell apart emotionally. But it was over. What can you do? And then sitting in the hospital, we get in the infield hospital, and about 20 minutes later or something like that, Dad comes in and he goes, "You can win this race." And I look at him like, "What? What are you saying?" He goes, "Because Tom Benford made a rule that year that you couldn't pass under the white line. You couldn't pass under the white line." And Emerson was clearly under the white line, because he just did a dive job on me.
Sure.
Just going into 3. And because all he could think about was winning the Indy 500. All I could think about was winning the Indy 500. And so, you got 2 cars going into a corner where only one's going to come out. And it's just racing. But Dad goes, "You can win." And I looked at Dad. I go, "Dad, he's drinking the milk right now. He's in victory lane." I had never been. Even in all my dad's victories, I had never been to victory lane. My sisters got to go in 1978. My sisters,
when he won his third.
When he won his third, I decided to ditch school that year. And so I was grounded.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I was grounded. I was supposed to be at that race, but I was grounded. Man, I was in trouble too. Thank God he won that year, because he would have came home and
would you have had
me.
to file a protest in order to have the
Absolutely.
And you did or didn't?
Did not. I just looked at Dad. I go, "Dad, no."
Plus, you had the experience. Was it 81 with the Bobby Unser Mario Andretti flip?
And that's
then
what Dad was
reflip?
thinking. That's what Dad. It's been proven that you can protest this race, and it can go either way. But it's not for months and thousands of dollars and all that kind of stuff. And I just went, "No, he's drinking the milk. That's what I want to do." And so, "Well, you sure?" And I go, "Yeah, Dad." "Okay, then."
Let's get to the good stuff. I was at my uncle's house in Greenfield watching the 1992 Indianapolis 500. It was a great year for you.
It was cold.
He had a one of those big giant black satellites, so he could pick up a feed from another city.
Okay, yep.
And I went out there and watched the race. It was in the 50s at least.
It was cold. It was the coldest day in the history. Yeah.
And obviously I'm a homer, so take this for what it's worth.
Okay.
There is nothing in sports more exhilarating than a close finish of the Indianapolis 500.
Right. Gordon and Rick proved that.
1982, that's right.
Yep.
And yours is the closest?
So far.
So far, that's right.
It'll fall one day. It'll fall one day, but man, it's been a long run.
Al Unser Jr. won his first Indianapolis 500, beating Scott Goodyear by .043 of a second.
Mm-hmm. It was actually closer because my timing device was in the nose of my car. His timing device was in the side pod of his car. So it's actually, if they mandated it like they do today, they mandate their timing devices to be in a specific. It's in the nose of their car. Every car today, but back then they didn't, so it's actually closer.
That is great.
As a matter of fact, Valvoline came out with an advertising campaign during that summer, and they said because we crossed the finish line, something like running 225 miles an hour or 230, something like that. What is the distance in .043 of a second at that speed? And whoever can give the answer can get a free case of oil or something like that. Well, they figured it out, and they used the photo, and the photo's not right to the actual time. The photo's off by about 3 or 4 feet.
Really?
Yeah. So it didn't compute with the photo.
And I think you said earlier in the interview that was Michael Andretti's year.
Yes,
that he had the best.
Yeah.
He was, and I think I
All day
remember
long.
that he was
Matter of
leading
fact,
it.
there was one point he had a whole lap on the entire field. We were all down a lap.
And dude, you thinking when he went out, like, this Andretti curse thing there might be something to it.
No,
this is terrible.
No, honestly, what I thought, because Scott Goodyear and I were having such a good race, the last 50 laps of the race, that we were so equal that we couldn't pass each other on our own. So it was lap traffic that would wreck our momentum, that would allow the other guy to be able to pass. And so I was leading Scott. We go into a corner and lap traffic, and he gets me and he passes me, and so then we run a few laps, and then he ran into some traffic, and I got by him, and within a lap, Michael Andretti's slowing down the backstretch. So it was just by sheer chance that I was leading the race.
And when you found out he was out,
Yeah,
Michael Andretti was out, and you're 10, 12 laps.
this is for the win. Now
Are
it
you
gets
thinking,
serious.
there's no chance in hell this dude is going to pass me?
Well,
How did that mentally go? We've been battling all day, even though Andretti's been running away with it. He's out of it. Now I'm a couple of years away from the race I should have won. Now I'm in the lead.
Yeah.
Ain't going to be no more MO.
Well, no,
it's not happening again.
No, what I was praying for was no lap traffic, because that's what caused the 89 debacle, was us coming up on lap traffic. So for the last 12 laps of the race, I was just praying, and I was looking every time I come off of turn 2, I'd look to the end of the straightaway, and every time I came off of turn 4, I would look to the end of the straightaway, just praying no cars. I don't want to see any cars. If that's the case, and my car holds in there, handling wise, then we can win this. And so,
And how hard is it to be disciplined when the laps are counting down and you're that much closer, and maybe he's getting a little bigger in your mirror? Like, how do you hold your training and your discipline and your mindset to be like, just don't make any mistakes? It's not about doing something special, perhaps. It's about remembering how to drive this car in this track.
It's just being about smooth and easy, basically. I mean, we were wide open all the way around. So all I needed to, and what I did, I just relaxed and just concentrated on what was in front of me, and then just being smooth, and then watching him run behind me. Okay, so again, the same old theory. I want to take away the air in the corners, and then I want to give him as much air on the straightaways as I can. So I started watching him run in my mirrors behind me in the corners, and so he was running just a little bit beneath me, so I would run a little bit lower, and so then that put him a little bit above me, and so then I moved up, ran a wider line through the corners. I tried to put my car in front of his going through the corners, and then down the straightaways I'm weaving back and forth to give him the air as much as I can down the straightaways.
Did you think, oh man, if this is a 202 lap race, he's going to get me?
If it was a 201, he would have got me, because I had been trimming out my car all day long, and on my last pit stop, I went a little too far on the rear wing, taking it out. So my last lap, going into turn 3, on the exit of 3, the back end slid out on me. And it was the first time that it slid out on me on the 12 laps. And so when I turned into turn 4, it jumped out on me, and I had to blip the throttle. That 1 millisecond of blipping the throttle, that enabled Scott to get a massive run on me. because I had been wide open the whole 12 laps, never lifting, just wide open. And I knew one little lift would just kill me. And it just coming for the checkered, that's what enabled him to get up beside me. And so had that happened a lap earlier, he would have passed me going into turn one, and it would have been over.
How soon after you drank the milk and got the reef did you see your dad, and how soon after that did you see Scott Goodyear?
I saw Dad pretty much as soon as the victory lane ceremonies were over with, and they take you and they put you in the pace car to take a victory lap. And on our way out in the pace car, on our way out, there was Dad, and he had his hands were his arms were all open wide. It was like the biggest hug I ever got, all kinds of stuff like that. And so, it was, and then it wasn't. I don't think I saw Scott until the victory banquet the next night. Yeah.
And you're looking at him, going, "I know how you feel," because it was just a few years ago.
He knew he knew what it felt like, but yeah.
It was pretty clear.
He's a good guy. Scott Goodyear, as a matter of fact, what's actually happened, because it's the closest finish in the history, and it's stayed that way for the last 25 years or whatever, how many years it's been, it's actually put Scott Goodyear and I as good friends now, because we do so many things based on that finish.
Oh, sure. That would make perfect sense. It's a great marketing tool.
It is. And we become good friends. Yeah.
Mentioned your uncles and your sisters and obviously your dad. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention someone else who had a little stake in this game. And that's your mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did she handle her husband and her son and all the dangers and the exhilaration of being in the racing world?
Honestly, my personal opinion is she just didn't think about it. She wouldn't think about it. Of course, she loves racing, okay, but I don't think she wanted to think about the danger side of it, and then when it did come, I crashed in Michigan one day real bad in 1984, and pulled ligaments in my knee and my ankle, and I remember going back home to Albuquerque, and Mom was watching it, of course, in Albuquerque, and she came over the house. "I'm so happy you're okay," and all crying and stuff. And I'm going, "Mom, I'm okay. Okay, just hey, this is racing." And she goes, "I know, but I worry about you so much." And so, I was really fortunate that I didn't have any real big accidents in my career that kept me in the hospital for any length of time. My dad didn't either.
I was just going to make that point. Neither one of you did.
Right. My dad didn't either. And so mom was of course she worried. She loves her children, and she's a mom, but she also loves racing too, and she had a great time. She used to sell my merchandise, my T-shirts, and all that kind of stuff. And
really,
she was the head of my fan club, and
literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively, yeah. She just loves, and she loves the fans, and she loves talking to them, and she's my mom, so she just loves it.
That actually put me right to my next question before we get to your victory in 1994. You're listening to the Leaders and Legends podcast. Our guest is two-time Indianapolis 500 champion, Al Unser Jr. It was pretty clear earlier in your career, especially as you became a serious contender for the race every year, that Indianapolis loves Al Unser Jr. Is that something you felt, something you enjoyed, the popularity that you had with the Indianapolis 500 fan base and the city?
Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. I was the guy that went through the airports because we travel so much through the season and stuff. I went through the airports, with my head down, going through, the airport, not wanting to be recognized. Okay. My dad and my Uncle Bobby, they had their names on their briefcases. Okay. They wanted everybody to know that they were walking through the airport. And I don't know, maybe it's because they became famous in their adult life. And with me, I used to get beat up at school because I was famous, okay, and so on, and so I really didn't, I didn't like the popularity out and about, and so I was always cordial to anybody come up and ask me for my autograph, no matter if I'm eating or not. It's an honor to be asked, okay, and so. No, I was the quiet guy. I kind of stayed home. I didn't go out very much and that sort of thing. So
you obviously had the greatest racing idol you could possibly have, and your father, and I'm sure your Uncle Bobby is 1A. Mm-hmm. Was there another race driver from your previous generation's career that you looked up to, or just thought, man, that guy can drive a car?
Absolutely. Mario Andretti. I don't know. Maybe it was because I knew him when I was a kid and we went snowmobiling and all that kind of stuff. But my dad, okay, so I never got to race against my Uncle Bobby. My Uncle Bobby retired in 82. Okay, and so
was a terrific TV commentator,
and so, absolutely, and so his last full season was 81. Okay, and then Dad ran 83, 84, and 85, and that was his last year as a full-time driver. He would come back and run the Indy 500 after that, but 85 was his last full season, and so with my two major idols to learn from that I know would tell me the truth and all that kind of stuff. With them out of the picture, it became Mario. And so, and Mario was super quick, super competitive, still going, really fast and winning races and all that. And so, I concentrated him. And the only way I could concentrate on him was by following him in practice. That was, because he's a competitor. He's not a family member. Okay, he's a competitor. So I can't, between practice sessions, I can't walk up to Mario and go, Mario, what springs are you running on your car? And Mario, how do I get through this corner? Because he'd tell me.
Right.
So, because he's a competitor, so he's gonna give me all the wrong advice. Okay, so I couldn't walk up and do. So the only way I could learn from him was by and I did. I concentrated on Mario huge, and then it was whoever was quick that weekend, because there were so many great race car drivers in the late '80s and early '90s. Emerson, Nigel Mansell, Rick Mears. These guys were just. Bobby Rahal,
I was just going to say.
Michael. I mean, just and so whatever given weekend, who's ever running the quickest, that's who I'd try to concentrate on during the practice and so on.
Were you conscious of the fact that there were so many great drivers? I mean, you can say it's the golden era of racing, where you have 60s, 70s, 80s, and then kind of early to mid 90s was just 35 years of excellence year after year with all these amazing drivers, Hall of Fame drivers.
It was, the popularity really went through the roof because ESPN came online in 1980?
Late 70s, but really started taking off.
With the racing, with the auto racing is, before that, it was Wide World of Sports. On occasion, they'd have a couple races outside the Indy 500 during the summer, but once ESPN came online and really started pushing the racing, then it was that era that really gained the popularity, and so then 10 years down the road, the early 90s was its peak.
1994, you get to turn the tables on Emerson Fittipaldi.
Yeah.
How did that feel when you win your second Indianapolis 500 and he doesn't?
Well, again, it was one of those things. We were fast. We were running second all day long, and Emerson, but Emerson was, quicker than I was. And as the race went on, near the end of the race, he's almost a lap in front of me, and then he was trying hard to pass me, and he actually got it done with lap traffic. Again, that lap traffic, he actually passed me, but then we caught more lap traffic, and that wrecked his momentum. So I even passed him on the outside going into turn 3 and got it back. And I didn't know this, but they were really pushing him hard to pass me. And so he just tried too hard in turn 4 and ended up, the car jumped sideways on him, and he corrected and went up and hit the wall. And I saw it in my mirror that he hit the wall, and I went, "Oh, thank."
Because you were a lap down when he passed you, so I mean,
yeah, he was
that's
trying.
how big his
He
lead
was trying to put me a lap down. Yeah, because I had already made my final stop. So with the pit speed limit and all that, it's about one full lap. If you come in the pits and the racetrack is green, it's about one full lap that you're going to lose time-wise. So he was right there, okay? And I saw him crash in turn 4, and I went, "Oh, thank God,"
And he's your teammate, by the way.
Yeah, he's my
Penske.
teammate. Yeah. Dad goes, "Wow, this is so cool because now I'm going to win," and yay! And then really it was during the pace lap afterwards, the pace car, Dad's with me now because he retired that year. So he's in street clothes. So he's rides with me around on the pace car, and we get over to turn 4, and I said, "That's where Emerson hits. That's where Emerson hit." And Dad looked at me and he goes, "Hey, it comes back around. It always comes back around." And was Fittipaldi, as I know he didn't come out on the track, but was he as gracious about that? Oh yeah. He crashed on his own, so it was his own fault. And so
I'm paraphrasing. The last question I want to ask you before we get to the 5 questions that we end all of our podcasts with.
Okay.
I'm going to paraphrase Walter Matthau, the famous actor, where he basically, after an actress, and I forget her name, received an Academy Award, Matthau famously said, "Well, now you know how you'll be described in your obituary. Academy Award winner X died."
Right.
Were you conscious of, now I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. This is how I'm going to be described for the rest of my life, including on the Leaders and Legends podcast, which you may not have been thinking of at the time, I get. But 2-time Indianapolis 500 champion, Al Unser Jr., that's the lead to your life in a lot of ways. Am I off base on that, or is it something you think about?
No, I don't really think about it, okay? I saw it happen with my father and my uncle, that is what winning the Indy 500 does to your name, is you become, an Indy 500 winner, no matter how many times, just an Indy 500 winner, for the rest of your life. And that's one of the things that winning here does to you and your family. So,
A.J. Foyt famously said, "Indianapolis is what made my career."
That's right. And no one would know who A.J. Foyt or Al Unser or Bobby Unser or Mario Andretti or Al Jr. if they didn't win the Indy 500. So
about a year ago, we had a 3-time winner, Johnny Rutherford, on the Leaders and Legends podcast. I asked him this question. Yes, he was very kind. It was a terrific interview, too. What's more frustrating for you, or which would you rather do? Get out on the Indianapolis 500 track right now at your age and try to run 200 miles an hour against some of the best drivers in the world? Or be on I-465 driving around with a bunch of Hoosiers as they're trying to get home from work? How did you handle being on the actual interstate in your own car dealing with people like me?
Today, at my age, I'd rather be on 465, okay? But back when I was in my 20s and 30s and I was actually racing out here, I'd rather be on the racetrack because I know who I'm driving next to. Out on 465, you don't know what kind of day anybody's having or how many beers they've had or what have you. And so, but no, today I'd rather be just hanging out. Yeah.
We've come to the point in the Leaders and Legends podcast where we ask the same 5 questions of all our guests. Are you ready, Mr. Al Unser Jr.?
You betcha.
What was your first job?
My first job, I was a machinist in a machine shop in Albuquerque.
What was your first concert?
First concert was Jerry Jeff Walker.
Who?
Jerry Jeff Walker.
Forgive me, I shouldn't have just said who, but I don't know.
Yeah. It was kind of like a rock and roll country band back in New Mexico.
But once you started winning Indy 500s, did you go to better concerts and get special tickets?
I did. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of we were talking about Eddie Van Halen and Sammy Hagar before we started the podcast.
I never got to see one of their concerts.
But there are a lot of rock stars who are huge car and racing fans.
Yeah, I got at Cleveland one day after the race at Cleveland. Journey was playing down in downtown Cleveland, and I went to that concert after the race and ended up playing the cowbell on stage with them. That was the fun days.
If you could recommend any book for someone to read, which book would you choose?
The Shack. The Shack.
Which book is that?
It tells a story about a man and meeting up with God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit.
Terrific.
The Shack.
If you could witness any event in history, be there as it happens, which event would you choose?
Ooh, which event would I choose? The Indy 500.
Maybe see your dad win the one that you got grounded?
Yeah.
Last question. If you could have dinner with anyone in the world living today, 2 hours off the record, whom would you choose?
Who would I choose? I would choose Anthony Hopkins.
That's a great. Of course, he is a cannibal. Are you sure?
Yes.
Here's a
he's done a lot of others. So he's.
Here's a bonus 6th question, which has never been asked on the Leaders and Legends podcast.
Okay.
How absolutely amazing is Norma Lawrence?
Fantastic. Unbelievably amazing.
She's an absolute sweetheart, and our friend Norma Lawrence is why Chris Spangle and I are here sitting with you for this podcast. We've asked Al Unser Jr. our 5 questions, but we have one more for him. Al, what are you up to these days?
Well, thanks for asking, Robert. We're doing quite a lot of things. I'm actually with a brand new race team called Future Star Racing, owned by Mark McAllister, and what it is, it's an SCCA Formula 4 and Formula 3, which is they call it FR in SCCA, and so. Basically, it's the first step after go-karts. So we bring young kids in. Our driver of our F4 car is Chloe Chambers. She's 16 years old, a wonderful little girl that gets out there and just drives her heart out. In our FR car, Ernie Francis Jr. is our driver, and he's already won a race this season in that car. And then at the same time, we started, Mark McAllister started the Wings and Wheels Foundation, which is raising money to help kids, young adults that have all the talent. They have everything except the funding to go forward. It is part of a diversity thing too. So, but mainly it's just to help these young adults in all aspects of racing, not just driving cars, but working on them, mechanic them, doing stuff with marketing, social media, everything that what racing entails. And so yeah, we started that foundation, and so that was Mark's vision, is to give back, and give these young kids an opportunity that they may not have. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing today. And I truly love it. I get to pass on what was passed on to me by my father, and so on. So yeah, it's exciting stuff.
So racing just at every level, for the final question, racing at every level with every demographic, that's what turns you on. That's what gets your blood flowing, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Especially working with these young adults, because I can suggest something for them to go out and try. And when they come back and they go, Al, I tried it and it worked, it was great. And when they light up like that, it's a win for me. I just light up too. So
Al Unser Jr., you've been a terrific guest. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to Leaders and Legends, brought to you by Veteran Strategies Incorporated. If you want to contact us about this program or our menu of public relations services, please send us an email at robert@veteranstrategies.com. That's robert@veteranstrategies.com.